Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how every time a new conversation is created or a new message is added to a conversation, the automated logic that happens inside of Firebase that then actually creates a conversation for the users that are part of a conversation, and also that every time a chat message is added, how the last chat message is copied over to the corresponding conversation document inside of a user's conversation collection. So to start off, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you that we are going to create a new conversation between two users who do not have a conversation as of now. So if we see that our user 0503 has a conversation with this user and has a conversation with this user, but as of now does not have a conversation with this user, which is 6HY PKY, which is Chris Pacino. So now to get started, what we'll do is that I'm going to open our Firebase project in another tab, and I'm going to copy the ID for both of the users that I want to create the conversation between. So I want to create a conversation between James and Chris. So I'm going to copy the ID of James first, and I'm going to go to the other tab of Firebase, and I'm going to go to our conversations, and then I'm going to create a new conversation. So we'll add a document, and for the ID, I'll click on Auto ID, and then I'm going to first create the member array that is going to store the members of our conversation. And this is going to be an array, and this array is going to have two elements inside of it, and both of them will be string, and these will be the user IDs of our actual participants. So the first one would be the user ID of James, and then I'll copy the user ID of Chris, and I'll paste that in for our members. Now keep in mind that Chris just for now has one conversation, that is with Hussein. So once we create this new chat, you're going to see that a new conversation gets added to Chris's conversations collection. So now that we have the members done, the next thing I'm going to do is that I am going to add a new data to our actual conversation document, and this would be our owner ID. So who's the owner of our chat? And I'll set the owner of our chat to be, I think it was James. Yes, James has this ID. And then finally, I'll just create an empty messages array, which would be an array of maps, and I'll just for now remove anything, and we'll just keep an empty messages array. With that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on save, and now that this conversation is started, I'm going to go back and I'm going to wait here for a new conversation to be created, or better yet, I'm going to wait for Chris to have a new conversation created. So we'll wait for some time for the actual cloud function to kick in, and once the cloud function actually kicks in, I'll resume the video, because if the application hasn't been used in a long time, then the cloud functions actually get put into sleep. And as you saw, our cloud function took some time to get up, but now it's up, and we saw that a new conversation was created, and this conversation was created with James. So Chris had a new conversation created with James, and we've set the name James, we set the unseen count to 1, the image of our user, and the chat ID. And now if we keep a track of this chat ID, A and B, and we go back to our conversation, you're going to see that we have this new chat, A and B, which has our user James and then Chris. So now that we have this, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to explain to you how this happens. So inside of our functions module, and in upcoming videos, we're actually going to create this function and then upload it to Firebase for the actual Firebase project that we are creating. We have an on conversation created function. So every time a conversation is created inside of our conversations collection, the function gets invoked, and it goes and checks our members, and then it goes to each member, and to his conversations, the function adds a new conversation to the other user of our conversation. So in the case of our recently created conversation, the function would invoke, it'll see that these are the two members. It'll go to the first one, 050, and it'll go to 050, which is James. It'll create a new conversation for James with the other user, which was 6hy, who's Chris. And then he'll go to, that function would then move towards Chris. It'll go to its conversation. It'll add a new conversation for, which would then be of the other user, which is 050, which is James. And this is how the actual conversations are created. And the reason we add these conversations to individual users is to keep track of what people our actual individual user is talking to. And that's the reason why we do this. So with that, I'm going to end this video here. Now in the next video, I'm going to show you the logic that gets run every time a new message is added to each conversation.